Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for laying down all the important things. So my job is easy to just add a little bit more of Thai experience, and I do not have my slide with me. So first of all, I would like to maybe share with you the current situation in Thailand. So Thailand, of course, if you think about Thailand, you would imagine that the law is bad. We still have forced labor, of course. Most of people who work and identify as forced labor are people who are working in fishing industry, of course, and also seafood packing industry. So 15% of migrant workers are working and identify as forced labor. The Thai government, of course, have done a lot of things, and I will talk about it later, about how we have been trying to solve this problem, but I will maybe spoil the end that it doesn't really work. So I will explain. Maybe my point of view is a bit different, and maybe the experience that I face is a bit different from what Professor Gordon and Professor Chiu have shared earlier. So let me start with why migrant worker. Why do they have to come to Thailand? So of course, Professor Gordon already said that because if they come to Thailand, they are hoping that they might earn a bit more money than what they originally earned in their home country. For example, if they are from the neighbor country like Myanmar, like Cambodia, or Vietnam, they might think that this is better opportunity, so they come. However, this is not the only reason. Because Thailand, if they want to earn more money, they might think about going to other different countries where they can earn a lot more, like Taiwan, right? But Thailand is, maybe the border is just next to their home. It's easy to come in without getting a proper permit. And I will talk about it later, why a proper permit is difficult for them. For example, in Myanmar right now, the situation is bad. They have a war inside the country. A lot of people would want to migrate to Thailand or any country they can. However, the government said if you are over 18 years old and you are a man, you have to serve military, right? So a lot of people would want to escape and come out from the country. When the government say, no, you cannot go. The only channel that you can go is illegally trying to escape because you cannot apply for a proper visa, right? Because if you apply for a proper visa, apply for a proper working permit, the government will find out that you are running away. So that happens a lot when something happened in that country, right? And they want to escape. And also, the other reason why some people in their home country cannot get a proper permit in Thailand is also because Thailand, we do have a quota of how many people can come in, right? And also, even if the quota is still available for them to come in, the time that they take to get a proper visa or proper working permit is a lot longer than what the law say, right? So a couple of months ago, I was involved in one research project. They criticized the social scientists. I work with social scientists, and the social scientists and economists part, they tried to tell me that, we have to change the law about entering the country because the time taken to get a proper visa is sometimes could take a year, and no one could wait because they want to just work and pay their rent and pay for their family. But I said, if you look at the law, it takes less than a month. What is there? Why, when the law said, this process is only 3 days, this process is only 5 days, combination of every steps, it should be less than 30 days to get a visa, working visa for these people. Why does it take a year for them, right? But when it's actually taking a year to get a proper visa, what they can do is they will go to an agent and say, okay, since I cannot get a visa within a month, I'm going to pay this amount of money. And can you just get me inside the country illegally first? And I will try to get a job and pay back that money. So that money is actually, they feel like they voluntarily pay to get, fast track to get inside the country and maybe find some job to do, and then that is the beginning of the story, because they don't have a proper working permit, because they don't have any document to support them, right? Once it comes to working condition, once it comes to labor rights, or not to mention the freedom of association or anything you can think of, forget it. They know that they cannot just come and ask for it because they don't even have a proper working permit. They don't want to go to the police and say, hey, I'm here illegally and I'm asking for the right to unionize. So this is something that I think is happening in most cases for migrant worker. I would like to give you an example of the working condition of the workers, Burmese migrant worker working in Thailand in seafood packing industry. One of my very good friend who's a prosecutor, he explained to me when he interviewed that worker, saying that, so how, like, what kind of living condition you have? They say they were locked in one small residence. They cannot come out from that area because it's locked. Every morning, the employer will come and pick them up, and the factory is just so nearby, and they just be in the factory, and they work and work and work until later at night. They will be picked up and drop off at that residence, and then lock the door, so they cannot come out. They do not speak the language, and it seems like it's not a problem because most of these factories that use a lot of migrant workers, they will have a translator available. So they do not even have to spend money in training for these people to speak the language. And that is also the problem that I will explain later. So supply chain, I think right now we know that this is the problem, and I think we are trying to fix the problem, right? So all the things that you laid out, the 4 points about debt, about Thai visa, about lesser rights, and about communication. I think I quickly checked the law because the communication I'm not familiar with, but I think all the 4 things we have in the Thai law. So first, for that, the Thai law requires employer to pay for everything. Second, Thai visa, we allow employee to change employer. We might have the cap of like how many days they can stay. After they quit that job, they can stay a month longer to find a new job. And if they can change the employer within 30 days, like find a new employer within 30 days, they can register the new employer and then still work in the country. The law clearly say that regardless of what nationality you're holding, you have equal protection under the labor and employment law, which means they do have that right to demand equal pay, the freedom of association, they have everything. Communication device, very interesting. 8 years ago, we have the law saying that all workers on fishing vessel, will need to be provided with a communication device so they can communicate the officer, they can communicate their family. However, this is not working, right? So the problem is not because we don't have the law. The problem in Thailand, I would say, a lot of time when I go present my paper, a lot of people hear about Thai law and they say, I'm surprised that this is the law in your country because it doesn't seem like this is, the situation is not like what I would imagine with this kind of law. If the law is this good, how come you have a lot of forced labor? How come you have this problem? I would say because we have the problem of the legal enforcement, we have the problem of corruption, right? So even if the law says so, a lot of time we can't enforce it. So I think that's the main problem. Supply chain, I think supply chain principle can in theory help address this problem, but in practice there's still a lot of gaps, right? Especially when some producers are not producing for global brands. So if today we talk about the big brand and things, but a lot of time these producers are producing for smaller locally consumed brands. So in this case, I think it's hard to do or to try to help these workers. So I would like to focus on the, maybe I use your paper as a model, like top down and bottom up. For top down, I think we are looking for maybe the auditors and also the whole auditing system. When we look at suppliers and we say that, okay, when there's some when you suspect that there's a forced labor going on or some labor violation going on in the supplier, well, you send auditor, right? Or sometimes the auditor just audit regularly. How much can you trust these auditors? The question is, who choose these auditors, right? So I was involved in one project and I went into the factory talking. This is a factory in Thailand, a garment factory in Thailand producing a product for global brand. And I talked to them and I said, like, who is the auditor? And then they say that they choose the auditor that they think that, you know, is very well known, this and that. And then they gave me the certificate of multiple the result of audits. And I looked at one, for example, one same topic, harassment. So auditor A gave grade A plus for this factory. But then at the same year, very same time, auditor B gave B plus. So I said, how could the grading be different if you are auditing the same firm at the same time, right? But overall, these auditors gave very, very good grade to these factory. Maybe I went to a factory where they provide very good living condition. I don't know. But the question is, what is the standard that these auditors use, right? Who audit these auditors? Who take care of these auditor and, you know, oversee the work and the quality of these auditors? This is still my question. And the second, all the NGOs that are involved in these you know, cases when they find some violation, they publish report, they try to pressure all these brands to comply with the code of conduct. So I think I still am not sure if this mechanism is working that well. I know that in many times it works, and thanks to it, the NGO, lots of time, you know, workers are saved by these NGOs. But in many cases, I think there's still lots of gaps. For example, when NGO would not know if there is any forced labor going on if migrant workers do not go to them and say, you know, living condition in my factory is so bad. So many times it has to be initiated by the workers. And if the workers cannot even come out from the factory or was locked in the factory, how could they know that this factory even exists, right? Or even if they know it exists, sometimes they have to go in, interview with the workers. How could you be sure that the workers are not, you know, how to say, coached by the employer? Maybe the employer might tell the workers that this is the way you have to answer if anyone come in and asks you, because otherwise you will be sent back to the country or otherwise you will be punished, right? So this is something that I think is still a problem. Also, that Professor Chiu talk about the definition of forced labor. I think a lot of people do not even know what forced labor is. I mean, like it's still debating, right? And forget about workers. I mean, like living condition is bad. Like how bad You know, like for us, it's bad. For them, maybe it's okay. You know, like they don't even know that, okay, this is forced labor. This is the point that they should go and report already. They feel like, okay, it's bad because employer is a bit tough. I don't get paid as much as I think I should, but is it enough to go out and demand or go out to tell people to come help? So I think without that help or if the without that support from workers themselves, I think it's a bit hard to for NGOs to work. For bottom up, I think the unionization, the density rate of the union in Thailand is 2%. It's very, very low. It's among the lowest in the world, I think. So unionized strike, collective bargaining is not part of our culture. So the law is there. We do have the law, even though we haven't ratified conventions of freedom of association or collective bargaining. We do have the labor relations law, and we have had it for 50 years already. But the workers, since the beginning till now, the rate was 2 to 3%. Never be more than 3, never lower than 2, but it's quite stable, has been stable for the past 50 years. The law is not the best, I would say, but it's still okay. The bad thing about the labor relations law in Thailand is that migrant workers cannot form a union. And they can join a union, but they cannot form their own union. So they can join a union that is already exist, and this is hard for factories that is mainly hire migrant workers. For example, garment factories. The factory that I went to take a look at, they hired 98% of Burmese worker. So 98%, everyone in the factory speak Burmese language and Myanmar language, and they can't even join any union because they can't form a union, and there's no union formed by Thai people. So that is also the problem. And the system of worker representative is also a problem, because you would imagine that without labor union, maybe they have their own worker representative or some other mechanism, right? But when a lot of time when I talk to workers in the factories, they say that they don't even know that there's any system available for them to bring up a complaint or anything, right? So this is also a problem, and I think we have been trying to fix it. Employer also come up with some technique to discourage union. For example, one of the automobile industry in Thailand, they hire outsourced workers. Mainly 60 or 80% of their workers are outsourced. That means it's arranged by a third party sending the workers to their the plant. And these workers under the Thai law, they cannot form the union. They cannot join the union with people working under the direct contract. So in this case, they can't. It's hard to unionize. Also, the turnover rate in Thailand is quite high. When people are working in the factory and they know that maybe in the next couple of months, if they find a better opportunity, because again, in Thailand, we allow migrant workers to move around. If they can find a better condition, with better pay, they can go. So a lot of time when they think that, okay, maybe this is not where I'm going to work, in the next 2 or 3 months, I better not bargain or ask for anything because this is going to be only temporarily for me. So again, I think at the end of the day, coming back to what I say earlier, I would like to conclude that the situation in Thailand, we do have the law available to try to protect this group of workers. However, in reality, because of these conditions, right, we say that everyone should be protected equally, because under the law, we do not say that only employee holding Thai nationality will be protected by law. But in reality, if these workers, they do not have document, they are inside country illegally, the problem is they will not come out or to demand or to report anything to the police. One quick comment about the law, the enforcement in Thailand. 17 years ago, we passed a law about human trafficking, and we put forced labor in one of the elements for human trafficking. And under the definition is quite narrow. Forced labor is when you force someone to work without their consent and threaten them to not quit, right? So it's like very like forced labor, like it's very straightforward. But if that happens under this law, which was passed 17 years ago, the person could be sentenced to jail for 6 months to 4 years. But if that involves serious injury, so if the employer hurt the employee, if it's serious injury, or the employee die because of that condition, working condition, the punishment is lifetime punishment to capital punishment, which is quite heavy. But still, we still see forced labor going on in Thailand because, as I say in the very beginning, I think the enforcement in Thailand and corruption problem in Thailand is still there. And people maybe are not so scared of what the law said. Even we impose a very serious punishment, then I think it's still, we can still see it. I will end it here and pass it back to Professor Fu.